Oh God, I miss Fodus. Fodus is the fucking best. Yo, 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 welcome to Living for a Living, the live episode again, episode 64. I'm Joey Bradley.
Living for a living, baby. How you doing?
We got the YouTube, got the TikTok rocking. So if you're watching this recorded, I would highly suggest one day either getting on TikTok or now YouTube, now that it's working, around 9 p.m., 8 p.m. on Wednesdays. I got to get that time solidified, which I've been doing pretty much the last 3 or 4 weeks. And we have some fun. Both the TikTok chat has been going now for a month now? And it's getting pretty fun. We got people from all over. And they're actually just talking amongst themselves right now, which is exactly what I want. And the YouTube chat is new, but we got Finland, we got Portugal, and we got someone else in there. So a goal right now that I'm slowly realizing with this podcast is just creating a little global community of misfits in these interesting times where we can't really travel and we can't move about freely exactly, which the conspiracy theorist in me thinks is part of a plan in order to make us all hate each other so we can be at war forever, and then there will be a new world order. Pretty much, actually. I think it's a little bit more complex than that, but that's where I think we could be headed. And so I want to be a light of positivity, a light of difference. So if you're part of the little Living for a Living crew right now, which seems to be growing one by one steadily, I welcome you to the chats. All right. Queen Bee. Oh, we got New York City in here. What's up? NYC in the building. Word. That's mad cool. I used to live in Connecticut. I know New Yorkers will be like, well, Connecticut is not fucking New York, but you know what I'm saying. But shit, all right. I had a good story to start off in the TikTok chat right now. It's pretty much all white people for the most part. And we got one black dude who's Canadian and Finnish dual citizenship. And he was saying that it's like a snowstorm or a blizzard or something in the chat, which was pretty good. But in regards to that, I've lived now kind of all over. I lived in the Bay Area for a couple years, and when I played out in the Bay Area, I was pretty much one of 10 white dudes on the team. And in my friends group, it was me and my Asian roommate. And then other than that, all our friends were black dudes. And so I can still remember the first time my cousin came and visited me. And my cousin had grew up in the mountains. I think he lived in San Diego for a little bit. But my hometown, we don't have a ton of diversity, or at least we don't have a ton of black people where I'm from. In my home city, where I went to high school. Asians, Mexicans, Indians, we have some of that, and so anyway, for whatever reason though, I've always felt connected to the black community. I've liked rap music ever since I was a young kid. I literally told my mom when I was 6 years old that I wished I was black. I think she almost drove off the road when I told her that, because she was so surprised. And so anyway, California, throughout college football, teams tend to be a little bit more black than white. Although at North Dakota, we were probably the whitest Division I team in history, looking back at it now. But then Connecticut in New Haven was more like an urban area. And then Portugal was my first spot. Lisbon's my first place I landed in Europe, which Lisbon is super diverse. Mainly, I think, because Portugal's one of the easiest places to get your citizenship as a foreigner. So there's a lot of, one of my best friends is from Nepal. There's a lot of the Asian, African, also, man, I'm rambling all over the place. Hope you guys are staying with me. There's 3 African countries that speak Portuguese because of colonization and stuff like that. So there's a connection. Portugal, long story short, was super diverse. And then after that, I moved to Poland. And Poland is not very diverse, to say the least. I think, I don't know statistically, but out of everywhere I've lived, although Czech Republic's pretty not diverse also, and I was in a small town in Czech Republic. But anyway, Poland was not diverse at all. And so after spending like a year there, I went back and visited Lisbon. And I can remember getting back on the train from the airport in Lisbon and just diversity all around me. And I love that shit. And I was like, oh my God, I've been missing this. Because I will admit, when you're the majority, you don't really notice the lack of minorities at times. At least that's how I've perceived it. So when I was in Poland, and it's all white dudes for the most part, white people, I never really thought about the fact. I mean, I guess I would when you'd see a black guy or something, you'd be like, oh yeah, it's a black guy. But it was never this like constant thought on your mind that's like, oh, it's super white here. But then as soon as I got to Lisbon and it switched up, I was like, oh, I've missed this shit. So yeah, that's my story regarding diversity. And just, it's weird how like when you're, like I said, when you're not in it or you're a part of the majority, you don't really notice it. But then also when I was in Nepal for a month with one of my best friends, where he lived in the local area, I was the only white guy I saw in the matter of, I don't know, a month while we were there. And so it became super noticeable, or people looking at me funny, not funny in a bad way, but just because I was such a foreigner. And so, I don't know, I guess those are some fairly unique experiences from the different places that I guess I don't have a fucking point that I'm trying to make. I guess I was just trying to tell a story. Hopefully the guy in TikTok liked that story. The next topic of discussion that I guess is a super hot topic here in Finland, which I just learned about yesterday, is the crime punishments or lack thereof here. And I was shocked to hear a friend told me about last year. I guess there was it first got described as a school shooting, but it wasn't actually a school shooting. And I've actually learned over the last, these are some dark topics we're talking about, but in the early 90s or something, there were quite a few school shootings in Finland. And that Americans, again, we just think we're the best at everything, and we think we're the only ones who do anything, and so we never hear about anything outside of America, really. Well, and I was young, so maybe it was talked about. But yeah, I heard in Kuopio last year, some guy came into a school with like a samurai sword and started getting his Tom Cruise Last Samurai on. And one girl was killed because of it. And so then I started to research, and I was like, okay, well, how long do you go to prison? You know, what's the sentencing, blah, blah, blah. And I learned that you can get sentenced to life in prison here, but the longest anyone's ever served is 22 years. And on average, it's like 13 or 14 years. If you're a first-time offender, it's normally less than 12. And so I was like, wait a minute. What if you kill 4 people? It's like, nope, same thing. No matter what. It's like, what? And there's been multiple times, I've done some weird research now on this. There's been multiple times where someone goes into prison for killing someone, gets out on good behavior after 12 years or 13 years and then kills another person as soon as they get out. It's like I'm all for second chances, and I'm all for rehabilitating people rather than just dehabilitating people. But I'm also under the assumption that there's just some shit you don't get to do in this world. And if you do it, then you're kind of giving up your chance to be here. And whether it's prison for life, I wouldn't say pro death penalty, but I'm not anti death penalty. And so when I hear about some of these things, I know that the US gets a bad rap on some of those things. But then just the common sense to me is someone killed multiple people, and then it's not going to be shocking if they do it again when they get out. I'm sure there's some people who have became better people or whatever and like learned their lessons and all that stuff. But man, to me, I don't know. I think you kill a couple people, you've traded your cards in. You've folded your hand for this life. And maybe that's too harsh, but that's how I feel. I'm not exactly sure. Chat, tell me how it is, please. But I know in the US, the consequences for rape and stuff, especially child pedophilia, is super, in my opinion, lenient. And to me, that's one that obviously, this is such a weird sentence, but obviously getting raped is better than getting murdered. But holy shit, they are close. And so the discrepancy in penalties of if murder is the highest that you can have and then rape is like super low, that's just fucked up to me completely. And so I don't know. Obviously there's not going to be a perfect system. And I would never, there's reports and not reports. There's firsthand instances, proof of people being on death row, wrongly convicted and dying for a crime that they didn't do, which is fucking terrible. But in a situation, I guess we can talk about the latest stuff that's happened in the U.S. There was a shooting in Colorado. There was a shooting in Atlanta, I think. Hard to keep track sometimes. To me, it's like, okay, you kill 8 people. I don't know. I think you've called it a life, but that's just me. What do you guys think? I think if you're young, there can be some differences than when you're old. At a certain level, your brain knows what it's doing. Also, I know people are at times mentally ill and they do stuff. And I hate how insensitive it may sound, but I don't know if we can help everyone. I think if you're an adult and you do things to kids, that should be much stricter of a penalty than vice versa, or doing it to adults, even though doing it to adults is still bad too. I don't know exactly what the best solution is. Someone in YouTube said that 25 years is the max sentence in Portugal. Well, and 25 years to me, that's a long time. 25 years versus 12 years is a huge difference, in my opinion. But still, knowing you can pretty much do anything and the max you're getting is 25 years, although still 25 years is a long fucking time, man. I don't know. Like I said, I don't think there's a certain system that's perfect. I need to maybe look into it more. Some of the statistics in regards to people getting out for super violent crimes and what percentage actually do it again and what percentage get truly rehabilitated and stuff like that. Someone asked, do you think the easy gun access in the U.S. helps the rise of shootings? That is a totally interesting subject. I think, it's hard to answer that with a blanket statement because state by state it varies so much for gun laws and the ability to get guns and things like that. The weird thing about the US, and maybe my numbers are off at this point, but I know at least a few years ago, pretty much in all the places where guns are truly banned and illegal, cities like Chicago, that's the easy one to point the finger at just because there's so much violence there. But in most cities and areas that have the stricter gun laws and or guns banned, not allowed, those ones tend to be where the highest crime is in comparison where it's easier to get guns. And so there's the argument to be made that if more responsible people have guns, then they can kind of police themselves in a way. Like Texas is kind of the example of that. I think in Houston there's more gun stores per capita than anywhere else, and they have, or maybe it's Texas. I'm getting some of my figures mixed up. I do need, damn, this would have been a good one. So I don't know. That's a tough question to ask. I think no matter what, if someone really wants to do some damage, they're going to figure out a way to do that damage. For instance, get a sword, get a knife, stuff like that. Obviously, yeah, I know a gun can do a lot more damage a lot quicker. But I think that if we just, and I'm all for stricter restrictions in terms of making people go through mental health exams, trainings, et cetera, et cetera. There's still going to be a black market for all that stuff. And so the quote unquote bad guys are still always going to be able to get it. And so I don't know if there's a right answer for that. At this point in the US, it's impossible now to buy back all the guns and make it so we're gun free. It's too far gone. It's literally built into the Constitution. And as a proclaimed conspiracy theorist to a degree, I want to be able to have them, or I want to know that my cousins have them in case some takeover shit really starts to happen. You know, the true root or the true reason for the Second Amendment. I think that stays true. The gun thing is such a difficult thing for a lot of people to understand, because the problem with anything in life, there's always the 95% people that are responsible, and maybe it's a higher, maybe it's slightly lower, and then there's the 5%, 10%, 1% that's just shitheads that fuck it up for everybody else. And so, for example, my cousins are avid gun owners. I've gone to the range, I've shot with them. I have a good buddy in Florida, avid gun owner, very responsible. And so for people like that, it's great, in my opinion, that they have them, because it's only making everything safer. As obviously, yeah, the more things that can kill people out there, maybe it is less safe. I understand that argument. This is just my perspective. But it's that 1%. And so I think no matter what, there's going to be that 1%. And if you limit the 99%, it makes things more dangerous in a weird roundabout way. And again, that's just how I feel about it. Yeah, and on the gun topic, damn, I'm super stoked for this, because I wasn't planning on talking about this at all, but this is actually leading into something I wanted to talk about. and I didn't put in my notes. But on the note of guns and the idea that the government might try and get guns back, supposedly, I guess Biden just passed, and when I say Biden, I just mean the people who tell him what to do, because I don't think that guy knows what fucking day it is. If you've seen any of his speeches lately, oh my God. But there's some legislature in process or in progress to allow cops essentially to enter homes without warrants in order to get guns. And it's a part of there's like a bylaw that has been in place for a while, which has normally been used in order to have cops be able to move people's cars like if someone got their like arrested and needed to or a car was in the middle of the street and they needed to get it out of the way for the safety of other people, they would do that. It's like public endangerment is the reasoning, that they don't need a warrant to actually enter the property. Community endangerment, something like that. And they're trying to expand it now so that cops can use that in order to go in people's houses to get guns. And it's actually worked, or they've used that excuse now for like one other time, and it held up in the Supreme Court. And so, yeah, Queen Bee, it'll be interesting if they try and do that. Whew, I know there's a lot of people who aren't going to sit well to that. The news will have a heyday because there is going to be some extreme news that goes on in the U.S. And I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that's just some little thing they're trying to get people riled up with and distract us while they pass some other bill that we don't even know about, which normally always happens. But yeah, that was something I read in the news this week, that if that happens, oh boy. Even if they ban every single weapon there's still been, like someone in the chat said, the 2016 Nice attack. There was also in Berlin, I believe 2017 or 2018. No, it was 2017 because I was there for Christmas that year and it happened like 2 weeks before or something. And so people will find a way. Crazy motherfuckers will find a way to kill people, unfortunately. I would love to say we can live in this utopia where everyone's mentally sane and loved and all of these things. I really wish that was true, but let's be honest, I don't think that's happening, at least in the near future, given our current climate of things. And so, again, I don't know if there are right answers. I'm just always under the idea of, as long as I'm not hurting anybody else and I'm responsible, let me do what the fuck I want to do. And I feel the same way, treat others how you want to be treated. So if that's what you want to do, as long as you're not hurting me, do your thing. Damn, we've gotten on some really serious subjects already, huh? What else? What should we get on? I honestly, I'm glad you guys are talking like this because I don't have a ton of topics for tonight. I recently watched the David Cho, Joe Rogan podcast. David Cho's this street artist who ended up doing a lot of work for Facebook when they first opened their compound and got paid in Facebook stock, which then took off, and he's worth like $300 million now. But he's done some insane traveling. I mean, some insane shit. And he first started with Vice when Vice was cool and actually doing some real stuff. And I'd highly recommend that podcast. And I really related with David Cho for the most part, and it was kind of a nice little like inspiration to watch. And it's just crazy to see too when people, the more and more I see and read little interviews, and I also watched the podcast of Tekashi 6ix9ine and Logan Paul this week, and it's just a weird thing. I don't know if to call it Hollywood or stardom or fame or whatever, but just the more money you get, the more difficult life can become. And I know maybe that's, obviously it's probably like a bell curve, because like difficulty of life, if you have no money, is normally pretty difficult. And then you get to a certain point, it rises. And then once you get like too much money and you're in the wrong situations, which with too much money, you can just put yourself into many more situations that are wrong. It just makes this happiness thing a lot more difficult. And so seeing the David Cho thing was cool because, dude was actually cool and sad, because the dude is a normal motherfucker who's wanted to travel and experience things. And some of his stories that he shared on that were absolutely insane. He went to Congo in the early 90s amidst the civil war they were going on, and had talked about his psychological condition or whatever that he's going on with. So yeah, I don't know exactly why exactly I brought that up, but I think most everybody who's in here has a certain vibe with me. You guys are watching, you vibe with me to a certain degree. I think you guys would like it. So just passing on a little recommendation. What's your opinion of cryptocurrencies? Is it worth getting in 2021? Man, Ugo, I personally have some crypto. I got into crypto, and I'm not an expert at all. I am very ignorant in this. But I got in 2017, right before the first boom and then right before the first bust. And so I was in for like maybe $1,000, $2,000, and it caught up to 10, 12,000. And then within like 3 months, it was down to $100. And so I just kind of forgot about it for a while. And now it's back up to almost about, actually more than what I've bought in. I'm actually up technically with crypto. And I'm consistently buying a little bit. I don't know if I would. I view it that it's totally worth it if you have money that you're willing to gamble with. I wouldn't do it as a 100% investment. And again, I am no expert here. But from the people that I've heard talk about it, there's actually a really good Flagrant 2 podcast with a guy on it. I forget what his name is, AJ Pompliano, who's in that world. He has like 95, 98% of his worth in Bitcoin. And he said that he thinks by 2026, Bitcoin will be at some fucking insane number. And so obviously, he has to think that if his 95% of his net worth is in crypto and Bitcoin specifically. So I look at it like I'm just trying to put whatever little extra chunk I have into it, because I think unlike some other stocks, granted, Tesla, stuff like that's blown up, has 10x'd over the course of a couple years in the recent past. But for the most part, stocks aren't going to just be a make or break, or like almost like playing the lottery, where crypto still, Ethereum right now is at, I think, 1,800. And so even if you got in, which it's at one of its all-time highs, if that ever gets up to 10,000, you've just 5x'd your money. And the way we see how it can go, I think it's possible. I don't know. I don't know all the statistics behind it, but exactly, yeah. If I view anything I put into crypto as something I don't care about and I can afford to lose. And at the same time, I do have confidence in it, obviously, if I'm putting money there. I'm not a big gambling guy. I like playing blackjack occasionally. Speaking of blackjack, in North Dakota where I lived, they had dollar blackjack. So you could play $1 hands. And we used to go to this bar that had $6 all you could drink from 10 p.m. to 12 or to midnight. But nobody was in the bar yet. That was like their trick to get people in. And so we would go and drink a lot for $6 and then play blackjack, dollar hands for those 2 hours while we just got fucked up. And boy, those were some good old days, huh? Those were some good old days. My TikTok chat right now is literally like AOL Instant Messenger chat right now. It has nothing to do with, I've just created a little chat room basically for all you weirdos, which I'm 100% in support of. Shout out to the regular watchers, Clayton, Henny, Marcel, Martin. Who else is a regular watcher of the podcast? As you guys may have noticed, I have no fucking clue what I'm doing for the most part. In my mind, although speaking of that, I do have a clue. I have this like weird feeling this shit is really going to work one day, someday. It obviously takes time. But yeah, I do have an idea for what this is going to become. As I said, the little global community of weirdos, which I think is slowly turning into a good identity for us. The grand scheme right now, as I've told some people, is after my season in Finland is over in mid-September, I want to buy a van. And then if I can't find the good enough deal on the van or the van doesn't work out, plan B would be to hitchhike. But plan A is to have a van, which will also basically be my home, living in a van down by the river. Isn't it ironic how living in a van down by the river was something that everyone made fun of you for the possibility in life when you were a kid? You know, that was like the ultimate loser thing. There's like a Chris Farley Saturday Night Live skit about that, I think. And now that's literally what I want to do. And that's what so many people want to do. And so get the van and travel around Europe and through TikTok and through YouTube and through the podcast, basically, the podcast and the vlog of this little community of you fucking weirdos, meet up with people. And I'll do a shameless plug right now. I've done some travel vlog stuff. I like doing travel vlogs if I'm truly traveling. I don't want to do daily vlog kind of stuff. And meeting up with people that I've met through the internet and getting to know their little home area. And so it's like this truly local thing rather than some big production and going to all the fancy places and going, you know, it's truly with the people. But yeah, that's the idea. And if because I don't know, I think it'd be pretty cool. I may get murdered by somebody from the internet, but I think it'd be pretty dope to have this truly grassroots community that's been created and go and interact with them. And actually, I'll be honest, this isn't my complete original idea. I did a podcast with Alex Grillo, who on Twitter, his name is Dropout Vision, and he did something very similar. He created a brand and got pretty big on Twitter and then traveled around the U.S. in a bus, meeting people, selling merch. I think he does tattoos also. And I think my thing would be definitely a little bit different than his from how he's described it with partying and drugs and alcohol, but also similar in the concept of meeting and connecting with people that have supported you and talk to you on the internet along the way. So I'm putting that vibe out there. So if anybody listening could kind of think some good thoughts about that also, I'd appreciate it. And then maybe one day I'll see you when I see you. The secondary stage of this plan after the van would be to buy some land somewhere in Portugal, hopefully close to the beach, because I feel I got a surfer dude in me for the next stage of life once football's done. And so it could just be a nice little plot of land, grow some food, grow some other stuff possibly, and have some chickens. For some reason, sheep. For whatever reason on TikTok, this fucking sheep shearer guy keeps showing up on my For You page. It seems kind of cool. Probably a lot of fucking work. Any of that self-sustaining life seems super glamorous, but is also a lot of work. Hopefully by then my crypto has really taken off. And yeah. And then just do podcast and somewhat of a vlog. I don't even know. I got to figure out a new term for it. From the van, although daily life, there wouldn't really be one. I've actually been having I have a friend coming over. If you've listened to some past episodes, T-Girl has been coming over and teaching me Portuguese. And our friendship now is just platonic. And it's been pretty fun. And so learning a little, or teaching, I think I just said teaching Portuguese. I meant teaching Finnish. My mind is all over the fucking place. I don't know. I'm at a point right now where football is still fun. Don't get me wrong. But I can start to see after football, if that makes sense. And in the past in my life, that's really never been the case. And I guess also in my mind with this traveling around thing, I feel I could coach and still get my football fix in and do like small little private camps wherever I want with the network I've created over the last few years. So even though I guess football will always be there, but I'm also starting to get some other ideas in terms of life, of stuff I'd like to do. And football has been fucking amazing for me, and still is, to use as this vehicle to move around the world and meet some really cool fucking people and make some connections. But I also know that it isn't everything. And at some point, there's going to be a next chapter. And maybe this van land life may be it. Maybe it won't. Maybe I'll hate it. And maybe I'll miss football too much. I don't know. We'll see. Thanks for listening. Because I also have a plan in regards to living in Portugal. I have a feeling over the next 10 years, there's going to be quite a few Americans who want to move outside of the U.S. I already know of a couple, and I've told them this plan. And Portugal is one of the few places in Europe where you can essentially get a golden visa by buying real estate. And depending on where and what kind of real estate, I think it's anywhere between 300 and 500,000. I mean, right now the Chinese are driving up the prices in Portugal because the Chinese are slowly but surely going to take over the world. As I mentioned last episode, I would like to start learning Mandarin because I think that is going to become very useful. I mean, there are Chinese people everywhere, literally everywhere. And so God, I gotta stop saying "and so." That's fucking annoying. And so, but I think that there could be some business in terms of setting things up and organizing everything from, I don't know exactly what all you have to do in order to get the golden visa, whether dealing with consulate, dealing with real estate, dealing with whatever. And the few connections I have in Portugal and in Lisbon, I have some architect and interior design friends who could help remodel things. I have some real estate friends who could help find the house. I'm sure, actually, I have a friend that's in the immigration department. And so being kind of the middleman in order to making all that shit happen, e especialmente porque eu falo português também, foda-se. Actually, I meant to do it this week. Maybe I want to start trying to do like little 15 minutes segments, a separate section only in Portuguese for the podcast. And I've been thinking about that for just simply as practice, and then to hear myself and have to edit it and listen and say, oh, I fucked that up, and maybe get feedback from Miss Felipa and Ugo, and I know Bernardo and Emarine watch this sometimes also, because for whatever reason I feel a little special connection to Portugal, as I'm sure most people who listen to this constantly are getting sick of hearing. The funny thing for me about just Finland in general right now, with the vacations, and vacation, by vacation I mean another word that starts with a V and ends in a shun. There's literally this like sports ticker at the bottom of the TV saying what percentage of the population has gotten their vacation, and when it gets to 70%, supposedly life can go back to normal. And it's just so funny to me that this Corvid stuff has become literally like another version of sports for people to follow. It's sports for motherfuckers who don't like sports. There's stats. People can keep up on stats. You used to be cool if you knew how many times MJ, what his percentage was in Game 7. But nowadays, no, you're cool if you know how many motherfuckers have died in the last month. It's like this Corvid stuff's just giving people who don't have a hobby to follow up on. And the little ticker at the bottom of the screen is just hilarious to me at this point. Janne. You're not the Janne from the Alco, are you? I met a guy in Alco tonight who worked there named Janne. So we got two Finnish guys named Janne for the majority of this chat. That's cool. Sorry to people on YouTube if you're watching this right now. I'd highly recommend checking it out on TikTok if you have a chance, because it's really fun on TikTok, to be honest. Okay, Miss TikTok Yana. It is the homie from Alco. Appreciate that, bro. What's up, dude? I have to admit, I don't know whether to be proud or ashamed that somebody that works from Alco is one of my friends now. Or I guess maybe that's the wrong way to say it. That I've made friends with someone who works at Alco. Because that also maybe tells a little bit about my time here in Finland so far. But also, I appreciated the random conversation today, bro. That's actually something I've really been missing here. Because as the Finnish group may know, for the most part, generally speaking, you guys aren't too big on random conversations with strangers. And me, myself, I am like a small talk king, and I love doing it. But I've realized in my time being here that it kind of makes people uncomfortable for the most part, unless they start it. For instance, today, Janne started it. And in that case, then it's completely normal and not awkward. But I've noticed if I ever try to start the small talk conversation, more times than not, it gets a little awkward and it doesn't go anywhere. And so, but that's something ooh, my voice sounded weird. That's something I like doing. And I like the random bullshit conversations with the person who works at the corner store, asking her how her day's going. Because I know most people are going in there and not making any connection. And so sometimes, I mean, I get it that people don't want to make the connection just because they're kind of like droning out in a way, or not droning. I don't mean that. I know that sounds negative, but just in the rhythm and knowing it won't happen. But I like that shit. And so my guy Janne, you like made my day in a weird way, because I'd been missing. But I also made a point today when I went out, or when I did my little morning routine, which I've been neglecting. I normally do a little meditation, do a little gratitude prayer, good vibes sending to other people. And I haven't been doing that lately. And I feel for whatever reason, my vibe has been pretty low. And I've been, in a way, excusing it or blaming it on my surroundings. Because before Kuopio, I was living in this small town in Czech Republic where, without a doubt, the vibe was low there. But I also believe I have control over my vibe. And so I was kind of succumbing to that low frequency. And so for whatever reason, I've taken it back, and getting to meet a random homie and have a little conversation today just shows it's on the right track. I've been making the mistake of waking up and getting right on my phone. And yesterday I went to the library with a friend, and they had a little section for free books, or books you could take. And there was literally one book in English, and it's I don't know what to call it. It's like a science report, or what the fuck would it be called? Like a case study on dreams and sleep. And I'm really interested in dreams, as I don't smoke weed anymore, so I actually have dreams. Whereas before, when I smoked weed a lot, I never had dreams. And this book is super interesting, but I hadn't been reading, and that had also been, I guess if you're anything like me, when you're going through kind of difficult, depressed, whatever times, you think back to when times were good, and we view the past in weird ways, But I try and reverse engineer it. Like, okay, when I was living in Portugal and I really felt happy, which I think is just also part of my memory telling me I was really happy at the time. Or when I lived in Poland, or when I lived in Florida, when I lived here, what were the things I was doing? And one of the things, when I lived in Barcelona, one of the things was I was reading fairly consistently. Because being in Finland's the first time in the last 3 years where I've had a working SIM card. And so whenever I'd ride the metro or the bus or any public transportation, I would have a book that I'd be reading. And so I'd be kind of disconnected from this world that we're all in right here whenever I was away from Wi-Fi. And I will admit, it made meeting up with people, and by meeting up with people, I mean Tinder dates. It made meeting up with them very difficult randomly. But it was also it was like living in the 1990s, where I'd say, hey, we're meeting here at this time, and if you don't show up within 20 minutes, I'm fucking leaving. And so there's this weird thing about us being super connected with all of this technology, yet it makes us actually disconnected from ourselves. And I wish that was my own original quote, but I got that from Pitbull, Mr. Worldwide of all people, who was on this one podcast where he spoke some real shit. But yeah, regardless, thank you to everybody. And at the same, with that thing of me saying that we're connected to TikTok and we're connected to YouTube, we're connected to all this stuff. I think, there's obviously pros and cons with everything. And at the end of the day, it's a tool. Social media is a tool. And so with a hammer, you can build a house with a hammer. And you could also kill a motherfucker with a hammer. You could kill yourself, I guess. That makes the analogy better. And so it all depends on how you use it. And so a big reason for why, if you guys have seen, I don't follow anybody on Instagram is because I'm not trying to waste any time on that. Yet I still completely waste time on TikTok, like scrolling through my For You page and stuff like that. But I also view it as a better connection. And as we've seen right here with the fucking crew of misfits, it's a good little community. And YouTube, I think, is also slowly building that also. I don't know what percentage of my YouTube subscribers actually follow the podcast and what ones are more there from the vlogs, because I got a majority of them from the Nepal vlogs, but I don't know. I've gotten a couple hundred maybe from the podcast. I don't know. I don't care. I mean, I care, but I'm not trying to lose sleep over it. So, yeah, I don't know. That was a little tangent I just went on. I don't know where I'm at right now. But it all started because, Yane, thanks for the random conversation today. I appreciated that. Final little segment here. As I've said, I'm trying to do some other observations on other countries that I've lived in and see how those work on TikTok. And so a couple of the things that came to mind from Poland when I was there is Poland is probably the place with the highest per capita good-looking girls on average. And what I mean by that is there's not an incredible amount of 10s there, but there's also very few 6 and belows. And so they're all in, like, majority speaking, they're all in the 6.1 to 9 range. From 18 to whatever your limit is. I don't know what my limit is, to be honest. It's a good question. I haven't really dated that old of girls in my life. I mean, like old. Actually, speaking of that, I had this one lady in Seattle who was feeling your boy, who was like, I don't know how old she was, 45, 50. And she was boss. She's like business owner. I don't want to say too much about her because I'm not trying to put her stuff out there. She's a really cool person. I was honestly shocked she wanted to deal with me because at the time I was just living back at my mom's place delivering pizza in between trips or stints in Europe. And I was trying to do some videography work for her business. And so I was like, yeah, we could meet. We could have lunch and talk about it. She's like, yeah, cool. I learned real quick that she was meeting me for lunch not to talk about videography. She was meeting for lunch to talk about me and her. And that was fine. I just wasn't expecting that. But at the time, I kind of had a girlfriend in Barcelona. And so ultimately it didn't work out. And I probably was super intimidated now that I think about it. We did kiss, but other than that, although it did give me a big ego confidence boost, I will admit that. But yeah, Poland is highly underrated, I think, when it comes to the female department. And I know that's a topic everybody on TikTok likes to hear. And Poland is doing its thing. Without a doubt. And also talking about Poland and swear words. One of the best swear words there is in the world is kurwa. I mean, it's unmatched, second to none. And I know it's also a swear word in Czech and all the other Slavic languages too. But at least in Poland, everybody uses that so liberally, it's crazy. You'll be on the train headed into town, and you'll hear the grandma next to you, da-da-da-da-da, kurwa, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You'll hear the little 6-year-old running past you with his friends, da-da-da-da-da, kurwa mać, da-da-da-da-da-da. You go out to the bar, and they're using kurwa like a fucking comma. It's... I don't understand too much Polish, but you can understand kurwa when it's every other word. Da-da-da, kurwa, da-da-da, kurwa, ja pierdolę, kurwa, da-da-da-da-da. So yeah, that's what I remember from Poland. All right. This has been a roundabout of an episode. Thank you for sticking around and listening as always. Appreciate y'all to the maximum. Again, if you want to join along, we're doing this 9 p.m. Finnish time, which is 7 p.m. Portuguese time, which is 8 p.m. Polish time, which is 11 a.m. West Coast, Seattle, California time, which is 1 p.m. New York time, East Coast time. Maybe I fucked that last one up. But yeah, hop in the chats, whether it be TikTok, whether it be YouTube. If you got a comment, something you want to participate with, you can see this podcast live and uncut, because I will admit I chop down to the things that are most relevant, I think. But also, I think seeing the raw and uncut one's cool too. And the chats are pretty fun, to be honest, especially TikTok. We're going to get YouTube. We're going to get the YouTube chat popping also, I have a feeling. But as of right now, the TikTok chat is a little insane. So, alrighty, I'm getting off. Thank you for your time. You want to tell a friend about me, that'd be cool. If not, that's cool too. I appreciate you. Love you. And until next time, peace and much love. Holla.
Living for a living, baby. How you doing?